Are you planning to go to the spring convention?
Currently not, really. Is that something that's required for you?
It's not required. I've never gone.
Not that I don't want to, a limited time.
Yeah.
Do we have somebody who would like to act as a standing, starting our own?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome, guests.
I'm going to now introduce our club president, Mrs. Bullinger, to start our meeting.
Thank you, Cleo. You can all please rise. If you care to do so, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's timer is Clea. Could you please give us an opening invocation?
Sure. Da-da-da. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them.
You may be seated. First item up, let's welcome our guests. We have a guest today. Her name is Tara. Tara, please tell us all about yourself, what brought you here, and what you hope to gain from here and how you heard about us.
My name's Sharon Day. I work for Doston's. I manage the systems engineering. So, been in IT for 17 years. Heard about you from the website. I'm looking to gain more experience with speaking, public speaking, standing in front of a group.
Great. And I think you come to the right place. So obviously, conveniently located for you, and I think you'll be very happy with the program. So if you have any questions about membership or anything about the program, let us know. We do not have our secretary here. Does anybody know where the notes are and stuff? We'll skip that part. Moving along, old business, we'll skip it. New business. Anybody have any new business to announce? Have we initiated everybody yet? 5 minutes? Okay, good. All right, great. And how about announcements? Brett.
Mr. President, dues are due. You all know I've sent you several emails. Oh, Mohammed, not for you, they're not due? Okay. I'm hoping to go to the bank before the 1st, which is when they're due. So if you haven't gotten me a check, I sent you guys all my address, please mail it. At the very least, if you know you're going to give me a check and for some reason your mailbox doesn't work, we can maybe cover you, but you have to give me a check later. So anyway, dues are due.
Great. And to answer all your questions, $45, TechMasters, the address and the email, April 1st. Okay, don't ask me again. I was the treasurer for a couple of years, and literally I would send an email and say, please send $45 by check or money or cash, and make the check out to TechMasters. And if you can't make it, it's due by April 1st. And if you can't make it, please send it to this address. They'd be like, can I give you a check? Who do I make the check out to? How much was it?
How much is it again?
Exactly, $45. And the treasurer is Brett. That was asked twice last week in 10 seconds who the treasurer was.
Yep.
Great. Who's Brett? Other announcements. All right, the Twin Cities.net user group. First Thursday of every month. This is going to kind of be a theme where we just kind of keep this guy up because it's always somewhat new. There's going to be a new meeting, and it's from our host Alan here. So we're going to kind of keep that up. And coincidentally speaking, the first Thursday of next month, I'll be speaking on ReactJS.net. On April 15th, Global Azure Bootcamp will be run by our member Mike Benkovich. Friday is a free event, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. at Improving Enterprise, where we had the Heritage Contest a couple weeks ago. And it is located, well, like I said, Improving Enterprise on the corner of France and 494. Twin Cities Code Camp, April 16th. Again, a free event. It's a Saturday, 7:30 to 4 p.m. at the University of Minnesota. And we'll have a booth there, so not only should you go there because we have a booth, but you should go there because it's really awesome. I've been going there for many years now. So, and at least, well, at least one of us will be presenting. I'm not quite sure how many other people will be presenting. And there is an event by that was helped organized by another member, Tony Brewstadt, the Value of Enterprise Architecture by the American and by AEA. It's Friday, April 8th at 9 a.m. at the U.S. Bank, One Meridian Cross in Ridgefield, and I put that link to the Eventbrite page so you can get tickets for it. Anything else from anybody? Okay, so let's check out the awards tracker here. Let's see, do we have anything? I feel like Will is done, but again, he's not here, so we're not sure. I believe he's got his common communicator. And I believe these ones are accurate. And we know Leanne gave her icebreaker, but she might have other speeches on her manual, so we might be able to lower that up. And so if you see any corrections to that, please let me know. And again, get your manuals up so that we can kind of get our VP of Education award goals. I can't give you a 20-minute explanation for them, but in general, we have goals that we're trying to work toward, and we have manuals that we're trying to complete, and we're just tracking that. All right, so today's Toastmaster. The first thing I want to mention, I had asked our guests if there was any kind of ulterior motive while they were here. If you notice this ridiculously large gavel, it is called the Elusive Gilded Gavel. It is a traveling award that you can steal from a club by getting 2 or more members from your club to go to their club during their designated meeting time before it starts. And I was like, you're not here to steal this from us, are you? You are not. Awesome. We can keep it for another. Phenomenal. So today's Toastmaster, well, we have something like 19 or 20 members on the roster right now. So that means roughly 3 times a year we have a very awkward situation where the president has to introduce themselves. So that's what I'm going to have to do. Today's Toastmaster is your current president who's sitting before you right now, and I'm not sure how this is supposed to work, if I'm supposed to shake hands with myself, or if I'm supposed to give myself an introduction of some kind, so I'll just skip it. I'm your Toastmaster for today. Essentially, the Toastmaster is the DJ of the event, kind of the person running the show, and the MC. Don't really have too much to add, but they're there to ensure things run smoothly, okay? So first, I'll introduce the roles. Today's court jester, I believe, is also Clea. Clea, do you have a joke to kick us off?
Do I ever? Okay, so I have a few things, a few little quotes that I found humorous, which I will share. AT&T to wed T-Mobile. Following the ceremony, there will be no reception. Cars will soon have the internet on the dashboard. I worry this will distract me from texting. And finally, in a perfect world, answering machines would come with the get to the point button. Thank you.
And today's 1-minute Toastmaster is Brett. Brett, could you please give us 1 minute of wisdom you gleaned from your years of experience of Toastmasters?
I can, Mr. President. We like to say in Toastmasters that evaluations are key. And they are key. It's part of why we all come here. We want to improve, so we want feedback and things that we can improve on. Now, we have some new members in our group, and a lot of times if you haven't made it through your competent communicator annuals and stuff, you don't oftentimes glean from that the things that make up a good evaluation, the things to focus on. So I thought I'd talk a little bit today about what I think makes up a good evaluation. And the first thing you have to remember is it's 2 to 3 minutes. And it's a mini speech. So structure is important. You have to have an introduction, a body, and conclusion. Now there's also various styles of evaluations. And I know they have fancy names of the people who kind of came up with them. I don't remember them. But there's this famous sandwich method, which we use mostly here. Start with something you liked, start with things that people could improve upon, and then finish up with something that you liked. So you kind of make a sandwich of the good, the bad, the good. The other one is you can talk about it from the perspective of how it made you feel. And I don't use this one generally, but Mike Mankiewicz did an experiment with me and Vince doing an evaluation, each taking that style. And I found the how I feel one was very, very difficult. It just feels unnatural because you're not supposed to talk about the speech directly. You're supposed to talk about how it affected you. And that's a very, very difficult thing because you have to really be tuned in to how you're feeling and how you're listening. So when we do the sandwich method, which is what we normally do, things that you should focus on. Basic structure. Did the speech have an introduction? Did it have a body? Did it have a conclusion? Vocal variety. Did the speaker change tone, speak louder, or was it monotone and boring the whole time? And again, probably the most important for me is eye contact. Did the speaker give attention to everybody in the room? Was he focused? Was she focused? Was she or he connecting with the audience? And then finally, obviously, the content of the speech. Was it effective? Did the speaker get through what he or she intended on and do it in a way that was entertaining? So that's my opinion on what makes a good evaluation, and hopefully it's helpful to all of you. Mr. President.
Thank you, Brett. I just made a couple of additions to our agenda here. This morning, just before everybody came, I awkwardly spoke to myself, to the camera, and made our Toastmasters International mobile app contest entry. And I thought, hey, why don't I add that to the slide? Because I want to make sure that everybody's doing that. So if you are the grammarian, try using the app. And if you are the timer, try using the app. Today's grammarian is anyone. Who's the grammarian? Anybody remember? I can also look it up. If you're not going to admit anything, grammarian is Nick. Well, Nick, just not here, right? So let's see. We have. Anybody want to volunteer here? Brett?
I can do grammarian. I don't have a word.
I'll table that for now, and we will come back to you with that part of the role, and we'll slide on over to the timer. Leah, the timer, we have a couple guests here. Can you please explain your role and what you'll be doing today?
Absolutely. So throughout the speaking portion of our meeting, you will see these 3 cards. Green means you are right in the designated time. Yellow means you are going over, and red means stop, you're speaking too much. So for the table topics, try and stick to 1 minute for green, and red would be when you're at about 2 minutes. Speeches, you can designate how long you would like to speak, but the ideal is 5 minutes, and red being 7 minutes. Evaluations, stick around 2 minutes. Anything over 3 minutes will get you the red card. Thank you.
And we have all these various roles because we want to improve not only our prepared speaking, which we'll be hearing later, but also our prompt speaking with table topics. And we also want to improve on our grammar with the grammarian, and we also want to improve on every other aspect of speaking, including timing. We have a certain schedule, we have times where we discuss various things. We want to make sure that we are able to properly fit into allotted time for whatever it is that we're doing at the time. Mr. Grammarian, do we have a word of the day? You can say no.
1 more second. So 1 more second.
1,000. Got it? No.
I have a word. I do have a word.
Feel free to share with us.
All right. This is one I didn't know the definition of, so I'm hoping that I got it right from my brief reading. I hear it all the time, but I never really knew exactly what it meant. So the word we're going to use is renaissance. So, the definition of the word, according to Webster's, is to being reborn or springing into. So an example of the usage would be my renaissance interest in Toastmasters. My reborn interest. So it's an adjective, so use it to describe things that show interest that's kind of springing out of you, something that's a piqued interest, and it's just a descriptor word that you can use to kind of accentuate something that you're doing and why you're doing it. So renaissance is the word. As a grammarian, I'll also be ringing the bell, and I'll be giving you a report for all the bad words that I use so often, like so, and any various interrupters you might have during your speaking class. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
And if you do have the means to do so, please try to use the
Oh.
All right, today's table topics master is a member who has been a long time member. He was kind of out for a little while, but he's back. Glad to have it. Could you please help me welcome Jesse Hooper?
What a great word boils into today's topic, which is, or our theme rather, which is Easter. Christ is renaissance. All right, so we're going to keep with the theme of Easter throughout the table topics, and we're going to start with some more serious topics, and then transition into a little bit more of a lighter topics as they pertain to Easter. Let's start with Brett. And keep in mind, this is a real statistic.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Bad numbers.
76% of Americans think the ears of a chocolate bunny should be eaten first. What do you think?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. 76% of people think that the ears of a chocolate bunny or a bunny?
Chocolate.
So chocolate bunny, we're talking about candy. So I'm trying to remember, I don't eat a lot of chocolate, and the chocolate I do eat is the fancy kind that costs like $8 or $9 that my wife always buys that have bacon and weird things in it. So I'm not a big chocolate fan. She seems to like it. So I'm trying to remember chocolate bunnies. If I recall, they're They come in various sizes. Like I seem to remember when I was a kid, they were like this big, and they were wrapped in tinfoil. And so I would take the tinfoil off before eating the ears. So I'm not sure they should. Well, maybe it gets eaten first, because it's the first thing you're going to put in your mouth. And when you hold it, I guess you kind of hold it by the base. So it would be natural that would probably be the first thing you would eat. You held it the other way. I'm trying to you held it by the ears, you'd eat the feet first. And I'm not sure that would work very well. So 76% people probably hold the bunny the way that's natural. And as a result, it probably makes sense that they eat the ears first. And it's probably the easiest part to get your mouth around. I have a pretty small mouth. So getting the foot in my mouth would probably be difficult. So I'd say that that's probably a pretty accurate statistic, and I'm surprised it's not quite higher. Because what do the other 24% eat first? Did it say that? It didn't say that. So maybe they eat it from the side and go after the face. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense to me. I would eat the ears first, so I'm going to probably agree with that statistic and say that I'm surprised it's low. Thank you, Mr. Gabriel.
You bet. Right answer. We're going to continue on with the serious one, Talega. So the Easter Bunny is the current reigning champion of the Easter mascot. If you were crowned chief executive mascot decision maker, what type of mascot would you choose?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. I've often wondered why the Easter Bunny is considered the mascot. And if you think of what Easter stands for, which is rebirth and spring in our situation, our case, I guess bunnies count because they do tend to procreate rapidly and at an alarming rate. So perhaps that is why they are part of this Renaissance holiday. With that being said, other animals that also equate to rebirth and spring could be anything of a baby animal, right? Anything that represents something new and fresh and innocent. So I would say, as a whole, Easter Bunny can be the dominant animal that represents the holiday, but I would say anything that is small and cute and cuddly, we should count as also mascot for Easter. Thank you.
All right. Good to see you made it. Got a question for you. So my world travels are really only to the extent of Mexico, but I've always been kind of curious on what other countries do for Easter. Different, same.
Thank you, Mr. Table of TechMasters, professional fellow TechMasters and guests. What other countries do for Easter? It depends mostly on what kind of religion we do have. So if we Christian countries, or more Catholic and more western side of Roman Empire. Yes, it would be pretty much the same what is going on in the United States with some specifics. If you go eastern side, where is difference in 2 weeks, because in the beginning of 20th century calendar was switched and adjusted to proper calendar, but some countries decided to keep old calendar, especially for religious ceremonies. So in that case, Easter celebrated maybe 2 weeks apart, maybe 1 week, it also depends. And I think it's not really depends on the country, again, on more like what kind of branch of religion are they doing. And since I am not much familiar with it, this is what I have. Thank you.
So Vince, I know you're big into politics. The White House holds an annual Easter egg roll event, and last year Obama made some comments about faith. Just kind of curious on what your thoughts are on the government's involvement in holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. TechMasters. What do I think the government's role is in regards to faith? Well, I'll do that and ceremonial things. In general, I am just petrified and mortified by the idea that our people like presidents and governors and mayors are just obsessed with this front-facing BS where they spend all their time focusing on the camera and try to do presentations and photo ops and odd things like this. And I just don't understand how, if we put so much importance in this position, why they aren't just worried about doing important things. Or doing less, going home, leaving me alone, never bothering with me again. But when it comes to faith, I personally am extremely religious, but I am also someone who thinks that faith should have absolutely zero basis whatsoever in any kind of politics. So, for example, I may have religious beliefs that in no way, shape, or form do I want to push on you. And that's, as a libertarian, that's the way I feel about pretty much everything. I don't drink alcohol, but that doesn't usually do. You feel that it improves your life in some way, shape, or form, fine, whatever. But I would like the concept of a government that governs least and stays out of your hair to be a little more reticent in this country. Thank you, Mr. Steele.
Kind of what I thought. Leanne, some of the more well-known foods for, are you okay to? Great. Some of the more well-known foods during this holiday are ham, chicken, and lamb. What do you generally prepare for Easter?
Thank you, Mr. TechMasters. It's funny you asked this because I just mentioned getting a ham to my husband, which was sort of a joke because I don't even like ham. If we do a family event, it usually involves something like ham or traditional, but if we were gonna just hang out together, which is probably what's gonna happen, we're probably gonna eat hamburgers. So nothing special. I'm not much of a traditionalist in terms of holidays, so I think hamburgers are gonna serve just fine for Easter. Thank you, Mr. Tech.
Is there anyone else that would like to go or that is available to go? I guess I'm not really sure.
That's my moment.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm a GE.
Oh, okay.
We have a new member up on the side there, Matt.
Oh,
Aha.
All right.
Trauma back.
So Matt, Americans spend $1.9 billion on Easter candy. How would you spend that differently?
Thank you, Mr. Postmaster. Americans spend $1.9 billion on Easter candy. That seems like an extremely large amount. I try to avoid eating too much candy, I guess, myself. Recently, I've been doing some workouts with a trainer and trying to eat a little more healthily and exercise regularly. It's something that more Americans should pay attention to, I think, generally speaking. I've heard a lot of statistics lately about how Americans are gaining weight and generally becoming less healthy. Thank you, Mr. Master.
I think that might be everybody.
Yeah, more questions you can start asking speakers or whatever you want. Otherwise,
Asking anybody or asking?
if you have other questions,
I do have other questions.
feel free.
John.
You still gonna ask Bethany.
Oh man,
John and Beth both seem
I might not have the. Let's see.
Veteran tabletop.
All right, do you have kids? All right, excellent. So while growing up, kids are taught about the Easter Bunny. At what point in their life do you decide to complete it?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I think my daughter still believes in the Easter Bunny. She's 20 years old, and she has already insisted that she needs an Easter basket. I'm trying to convince her that when you're an adult and you're living outside of the house, you don't get an Easter basket. But there's been a lot of whining, a lot of, well, Mom. So I have to admit that I'm not sure she even now believes that the Easter Bunny doesn't exist. Of course, I think intellectually she knows that the Easter Bunny doesn't exist, but she's clinging to whatever she can about being a child. The other night she said to me, Mom, it's hard being an adult. And she is on that cusp of true adulthood. And so I think right now she wants to believe in the Easter Bunny as a way to not have to be fully an adult and fully responsible. So there's just a little bit of childhood that she's clinging to.
Excellent. Great answer.
You have 3 minutes if you want to use it. Up to you.
want
there
to
anyone
rush
else who wants to go? By chance.
What about your guest, Tara?
You can ask them if they want to participate.
What's that?
Ask the three guests if they want to participate.
Do any of you guys want to take a stab at it?
No pressure.
No pressure.
I have children.
Dang it, I should have asked you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go right ahead.
No, well, I was thinking in regards to the candy one. But
Okay, let's hear it.
Relation to this question first, you might as well.
So is it just about children and Easter?
Sure, yeah. Children, Easter, food, whatever you want. I got a really off the wall one, but it's really off the wall.
Let's do that one.
I wasn't prepared to say anything today. I don't know the rules, so just forgive me. So Easter, I guess it's a big deal in my house. I have 3 kids from 5 to 10 years old, so we still believe in the Easter Bunny. I don't know, my 10-year-old says he claims to believe in the Easter Bunny, but I'm not convinced he really does. He just wants this way. He's like a 20-year-old. And Easter, I'm fairly religious, so Easter is kind of a big deal at our house from a religious perspective, which kind of contrasts a lot with the Easter Bunny and candy and that kind of thing. So that's kind of how Easter impacts me and my children.
All right, so Beth, Tara. Tara, what kind of plans do you have for Easter?
Thank you. Easter's not a huge deal in our house. It's more about family and getting together and sharing a meal and just spending time together. So we don't go again for the traditional food. I think we'll probably get together and typically we'll get together and make pasta, and it's all just conversation, spending time together, and that activity that we can all do together.
As we're rounded out, you're starting to say about kids or food or?
Yeah, well, I actually have I've never mentioned this to you before either, so forgive me, Mr. Over, I welcome the group, but I actually have a lot of food sensitivities, so candy, like if I have a piece of candy, I probably keel over and be sick for like 4 days. So I really think about the after effects too of other people, and people don't realize the effects of those types of products when they're consumed. And I think that's an ongoing problem in our nation, and it would be really interesting to have people invest that money instead into more hydroponic type community gardens, so that way people have ongoing produce and fresh vegetables and things that aren't processed and stored for a year before it reaches your shelf. So there's
All right. And then head back to our trusty Toastmaster here, Vince.
Great job, Jesse. Give another hand for a great TikTok. Before we head off to our break, we have a couple guests trickling in. And normally at the beginning of the meeting, we like to introduce our guests, but you guys show up a little after. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell us your name. We'll start here. Name, what brought you here, and what you want to accomplish by checking out the Toastmasters and TechMasters in particular.
Sure, Jeff Bymonth, and from some meetups I've kind of heard about it over the time, and really just hoping to improve my public speaking skills, my communication skills, and just check it out and see what it's about.
Thank you, Koya. My apologies for being late. I'm in the middle of moving and misplaced my keys in one of my boxes, so it was really fun this morning. But I've actually been in the tech space for a while, so I'm just wanting to expand myself further, meet other people in the tech space, just because they're like-minded individuals, and see what really fun, interesting conversations we can have and how we can help each other. So I heard really great things about Toastmasters, and I didn't know there was a tech division, so when I saw that, I was really excited. So I got here to know a little bit.
That will take a quick 5-minute break. Coffee in the back, snacks right in front of you. All right, so if we get the general evaluator and the evaluators and speakers up in front of the coordinate here. Anybody have slides?
Oh, I'm the evaluator.
I do got someone.
So, like we can show you this slide here, and this is right behind you, Ben, and you're talking, so you show the order that the house.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about time, those would be interesting.
Yeah, it was
So
a
here,
tad
and
bit
I'll
of
look to your left if you don't want to behind you.
Tad bit of a
There.
falling out
I'm moving
first,
first.
but
Okay.
it kind of mended.
Yeah, so, You want that?
It's all like.
Who's gonna go first?
She needs some freedom.
You guys like to-
You needed that responsibility.
You guys feel like-
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be that.
You have no idea.
No, I know.
It's like way too much.
And,
Kind of-
Should we decide?
And you already
I'm sure she
signed
really
up.
appreciates it.
Oh, I signed up.
I'm rich.
Leo will be your best.
What's that? No, it's not. It's just really cool.
So.
Good job.
I just came from work.
I already know myself.
You know, I think it's
Yeah, so
more about
I can
show
Hold on, Villela.
Yes, something.
Yeah, he's going first.
Yeah, I guess. I have. But I mean, he's not gonna kill. Oh, boy. Did I miss it? I copied it from. I even copied it from.
Azure.
Fine. I have no problem with this county. I'm pretty sure this. That's not like it, man. You're entertaining your own. You're entertaining your own.
When you're done.
Sorry, I just realized I didn't.
No, I think so, but I know. Yeah, you remember very much.
What month is
It was kind of awesome.
It takes to be respected. And this is coming down.
Should be a
Yeah, it's right over the corner. Right in front of you, where that train. Like, oh, maybe it's right down there. So up down there. Now where'd you go? Oh.
Because with math and also seeing all of this is no, like he's
Oh, the.
I don't know.
Sorry about it. I have seen that. Read it on the machine.
Well,
Do you remember?
Yeah, I just, this is, yeah, I signed up last time too, and I couldn't.
And.
You can go to work, yeah, I can't hear out.
And the morning version, I had like.
Oh.
Well, it's like, okay, yeah, right. Regular.
Where I move my body is gonna be.
Figure out something.
So.
Maybe you can do that.
How well is this going to do? How well am I going to be able to?
I'm sorry, I didn't ask, what is it that you do?
Stare down the road. Kind of low.
Well,
Very smart.
yes. I almost think that it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
I know. Part of these are little today, but not now. My son's having a tour and he's growing right now. Second night. So right now, it's but it's like. Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Oh, there was. Mount Mayer.
Yeah, my parents were married.
Oh, really?
Well, my dad is from Whitney, and my mom is from Kinsville, which is a little town, or Italian, town, Italian. So we go up there once a month.
That's a great reason.
Yeah, I do live out there.
Yeah.
They do have a career level, so I can go work for it.
Yeah, maybe it's probably a little bit more.
Urban.
Well, yeah, it's probably more from the iron ring.
Yeah.
It's definitely got a lot more. So, yeah, you have to go to maybe like. You have to write which in there, that's like no here, but there in a long time. So, that was all the way across town.
I'm hoping the range goes to like totally different outlook and mindset, and I can like go out bars and stuff there. I really like talking to people
Very, very nice, very warm, but.
Unfortunately, there'd be cars. No, I don't.
No, I totally forgot for sure, because I was planning to do it earlier.
Yeah, I understand.
I love it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
All right, we call this meeting back into order and hand it over to our press, our current Toastmaster. Mr. Vince Bollinger.
All right. Want to make sure you're done. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Yeah, I got your coffee and snacks, and we're all ready to go. We have two great speakers today. People who've been members for quite some time now, and we got a nice little slide deck. And I'd like you all to help me introduce a very nice, standing young man. He's been a great member of our club for the last several months. Please help me welcome Jonathan Oman, speaking on Azure Active Directory.
Thank you, Vince. So as one of your fellow members, welcome guests. As one of the current members pointed out, this is actually a great topic for body movement because it's very active. So I'd like to thank my fellow members for that. So today I wanted to talk a bit about an actual technical topic. I haven't really had a chance to do that. I've talked about things that I've been learning or things I've been eating, places to go. But today I want to talk about some of the things I've been struggling with, which is Azure Active Directory. As I'm trying to figure this out, a lot of this is for kind of internal purposes for my company, and it's been a little frustrating. I've had a historical interest in Azure, so one could say that I've had a renaissance interest nowadays, now that I've had an opportunity to look into it again. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the step-by-steps. I've actually taken a lot of these step-by-step screenshots of what I've been working on. I'm going to point out a lot of the really painful points that I've been experiencing, and then kind of wrap up where I'm leaving off currently, and we'll go from there. So, in case you're wondering, well, okay, I am not really technical at all. What is Azure? Azure is Microsoft's cloud offering for all of their servers. So rather than having all your servers, maintaining all of them, all the services that go with it, Microsoft provides them. That's what the cloud really is. It's someone else's server. what is Active Directory? Now, a lot of the applications that you probably all work with on a day-to-day basis have some form of authorization and authentication. That's going to be, well, authentication, I should say, is going to be, are you who you say you are? Authorization is, do you have permissions to do things? That's kind of the gist of it. Active Directory provides those types of solutions, those capabilities for your day-to-day applications, especially within a corporation. So Azure Active Directory, what's that? Well, it's pretty much Active Directory in the cloud. Pretty simple. So let's get started. I will say, as I've said before, this is very much a step-by-step process. I'm going to walk you through kind of what I've been doing, and it's a lot of screenshots. So don't worry, a lot of the slides aren't that important, but I will be kind of moving along at a relatively quick pace until we hit the sticking points. So yes, we start up our Visual Studio instance. In this case, I've been using Enterprise 2015. So if it looks a little weird, that might be why. I created a new project. I created a web application and went with an MVC template. So this isn't any of the .NET Core stuff for those of you in the know. This isn't the latest and greatest technologies, but something that's a little bit more documented, which I appreciated. You'll see over here that there's the change authentication option, which within there, I selected the work and school accounts. So you have other different options that you can do where maybe you're wanting to just use a general Google authorization. And in this case, I'm actually trying to use Microsoft's Azure's Active Directory. So in this case, I have already set up an account with Azure and have created in Active Directory a domain. Actually, it's my domain, so it's a good one. From there, we hit OK, and we move on to the next screen. Now, this is where we have a web app that needs to be created. So in this case, it's pretty well described Azure Active Directory web application. You do need a subscription for Azure, as I kind of mentioned. I already had that set up. And then a resource group and an app service plan are also required to be set up. Not kind of outside the scope of this, but these are all things within Azure that need to be set up before you can actually run this in Azure. So it does take a while for things to be created. It's a lot to set up, as you might have guessed. So let's step back. We've got an app created. We're now needing to set up a few things. First, we need a user. I could have used myself, but that's not as fun. So let's go over to Azure. In Active Directory, you'll see of the many options in the management portal, we have Active Directory here. And we have my jonathanomen.com directory. By going to the Users tab here, you can see currently there's only one user, me. But I'm kind of lonely, so I'm going to make a friend. I'm going to name him Bob. Bob Johnson at bob@jonathanomen.com. Very confusing, I'm sure, for anyone working for me. We just are going to specify him as a user, leave it at that. And then have to generate a new temporary password. Don't worry, it's already been used. You won't be able to log in as Bob anytime soon. So there we go, we've got a user. Great. So let's move back to the web app. We're going to start running it. There's a few warning errors or warning messages, so just kind of breeze right through them. Once you sign in, you will have to accept permissions, but that's kind of an out of order slide. Really, you'd be selecting Bob. Here's a work account as opposed to an individual account. In case you're wondering, that is actually a very big sticking point. A lot of people have been confused, especially if they have their own email address used for both personal and a work account. Sign in, update your password, and hey, we got something working. Great. We can actually click on the Hello Bob portion here, and it shows our user profile. So all that information I just entered is right there. So, you know, what I've been struggling with recently has been, that's cool, but I want roles. You know, someone logs in and they're an admin. They should be able to see everything. Or maybe they're just a contributor. They should see some of the things. Or maybe they're just a reader where they should only see their things. So that's what I've been trying to do. I want to take this and turn it into that. So going back to Azure, let's try and set up some roles. This was a little frustrating because you'd think that, oh, this is kind of this nice pretty UI. Well, if we go to applications within our Azure Active Directory, so this is different from the actual application that's being hosted in Azure. This is an AE application. we go to users, we go to users and we select manage manifest. Rather than a nice UI, it's just a file you have to download. It's a JSON file, so it's text. You have to actually download it, go in, and add this text yourself. There's no nice UI. You just have to look through documentation and know this is what you have to do. So we've added an app role and uploaded it. And now we've verified that it has worked. But when I try to actually assign a role to a user, it says, are you sure you want to enable access? And this is confusing because where's my role? I don't know where it went. I went around in kind of a chase to see, do I need to enable premium licensing? So sure, let's activate that. All right, I now have that activated for my account. And nope, that didn't fix it. What it turns out is that I actually needed a second user so that when I go to assign, or a second user role, so that when I go to assign it, now it actually shows both of the options. If it weren't for the second one, I believe it would just show what was showing before and say, would you like to assign the user? It doesn't say to what. So that's been a bit frustrating. From there, I try to find some examples which cover the different types of role claims. So it's not enough that they're able to log in. We need to be able to say, hey, we need to be able to look at the actual roles the person has. Unfortunately, I was having problems with this. Authentication, when trying to go through the nice, probably handy wizard, kept failing for me. And this is kind of part of where, once I had set up what I thought would be the solution, I kept trying to go to that one page that I had added the role security on, and it just kept going in the cycle, it kept loading the page over and over in an infinite loop of some kind, and it's not clear why. I found other examples that have worked for me, but I don't know what the magic piece is that I'm missing. And if you try to look for any kind of documentation, it's very frustrating. It's always changing, and everyone's got maybe their own little versions of what they're trying to accomplish, but never the thing that you want to accomplish. So to recap, setting up Azure Active Directory, it's not straightforward. Documentation samples are lacking, are always changing, and the extra licensing features are unclear, and I spend a lot of time worrying about the cost, which is about $6 per head per month for some of the things. So I hope you all have learned a little bit about Azure Active Directory, and if any of you have any information for me, please come and tell me.
Thank you, John.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, our next speaker is our illustrious, ever-present, always on time, very helpful Sergeant at Arms that always sets up every single solitary thing by himself and always kicks off all of our meetings at exactly 7:40. Please help me welcoming longtime member, Mohammed Faridi.
Vince?
Apparently he'll be speaking on microservices.
Apparently.
I love his decal, by the way.
You love, oh, the decal?
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so as Jonathan just went into Azure and the cloud, I want to talk about microservices today. Microservices are cloud-based architecture that's gaining a lot of hype, gaining a lot of momentum. But, and I don't have any slides, so they're all on my machine. I wasn't ready to do slide presentation on that. So aside from gaining all the hype and momentum, it's a new architecture pattern that's significant for the cloud. And to understand microservices, we really have to understand where this architecture came from and how we got here. So to understand that, we have to understand what monolith apps are. So let's say we're starting to build an online store, and we meet with the business tells us that, hey, we have all these requirements, and as an agile shop, you start, splitting out into stories and start working on them. So what usually happens is, right, you take that application or those requirements, the stories, and start building your application. You usually end up with a nice hexagon structure or architecture for an app, and a hexagon architecture is, and I don't have a hexagon with me, but basically inside is all the business logic, and every side is where you would fit an adapter. So an adapter to, let's say, a database, to an ORM, to other services, to an authorization service. So inside the hexagon is where all your business logic lies, and everything around it is what's connecting to the other outside services, right? And even though that we think about our application architecture today in terms of web API, or in the Microsoft world, web API having, services and then having a repository layer and all that, it's usually all packaged together in one solution so that you can build, deploy, to run unit tests, integration tests, and all that. But as the application is packaged and deployed together as a monolith app, it's not really different than what it was in the 90s, right? So in the 90s, when web came about, it was all one web server that had hosted the web server, hosted the database, hosted the business layer, and eventually you said, oh, well, maybe we need two. We have client and server. Let's split it up. And then we said, oh, let's have N-tier architecture where we have a web server, business logic servers, and in the end, a database server of some sort. But they were all usually packaged and deployed together in one big package. Now, what this monolith app does is it has some great points. It's easy to package because in Microsoft terms, Visual Studio does it all for you, right? You can all have the solution in one place. It's easy to deploy, it's easy to test, and it's easy to scale, because if you needed another server, or if your server was getting low on resources, you get another server, you plug it into the farm, you're good to go. But as our store succeeds and starts getting more and more traffic and more features, we start adding more and more code to it, right? So we have a new feature where we want to try to do some sort of matching, or based on this or that, we start adding more and more logic to it. And as we add more logic and more lines of code, the application becomes bigger and bigger, your monolith becomes bigger and bigger. So at some point, adding a new developer, or a developer coming into the mix, is going to say, well, I need to figure this out, this one bug out, but I can't fix it because I need to know the whole structure of the solution. I need to know where it is in order to figure it out. So I need to know my services, I need to know my database, I need to know all the patterns and repositories and everything that are in there. And maybe even the front end of the JavaScript, you don't know where that thing is. You got to know everything, right? The full stack developer, in order to be successful in the monolith app, has to understand the whole architecture. The other thing that it does is you can't really move to a new framework very easily. When you're small and nimble, you can swap frameworks out, swap new things out as they come in. You're like, hey, we can do it. But as more and more code and hands get in the mix, it becomes harder and harder to move to a new framework within one iteration. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's harder to do it in one iteration, right? You're like, it's going to take a couple of iterations for us to make sure we get all the unit tests and everything working, all the integration tests and all of these stuff. So continuous deployment starts taking longer and longer because now your application's getting bigger. And scaling requires a lot of, and scaling becomes an issue because, in your big monolith thing, there are resource contention, and you have to figure out where inside this box is where all the things are happening. So enter microservices. Instead of building monolith monster apps, we start splitting things down into smaller and smaller chunks. Kind of like what we did with, one big web server to N-tier to having services. Now we're just saying, let's chunk them down into smaller pieces. Now what that means is, instead of having one big monolith app, you're going to take that same hexagon structure and move it into a smaller chunk. So you would have something like a feature set, like customer or order management, all going in top to bottom in a microservice. So your hexagon will still kind of stay, but become smaller. So in many cases, you would take a feature and implement it as a microservice. And each service will expose APIs, and in some cases, consume APIs. And the purpose of microservices is so that you can consume them or be consumed. Communication between microservices ends up being more asynchronous or message-based, and apps don't communicate directly to the backend anymore. They have to go through an API gateway, which kind of acts as a router to which microservice things need to go to. Another impact of the microservice architecture is previously your monolith app dealt with one database schema. Now, each microservice can have its own database schema, which means you could have separate schemas, which means you could have duplication of data. And each service, as you chunk them down, can be deployed to a VM or a container. Now, a VM, and again, this is all cloud-based architecture, so a VM, as we know, is a virtual machine, but a container is also a way to package your application with all your resources and dependencies into a standardized unit of deployment. So you can take a container and deploy to a VM. You can take multiple packages and deploy them to multiple VMs. The positives or the pros of microservices are they're easy to replace. You can swap them out wherever you want. Services are organized around capabilities instead of a big monolith thing. They can be implemented using different languages, have different architectures, have different APIs, databases, whatever. It has improved fault isolation and is distinct from service-oriented architecture. But in conclusion, a microservice is a software architecture style in which complex applications are composed of small, independent processes communicating with each other using language-agnostic APIs. These services are small building blocks, highly decoupled, and focused on doing a small task. I'll turn it back over to her.
Thank you, Mohammed. While Jonathan made the slides, Mohammed had an entire construction crew reenacting everything he was talking about with regards to building. I thought it was amazing. I don't know.
I paid them extra.
That's the dedication. Extra. You typically pay them something. So now we move on to our evaluation portion of the meeting. Now, of course, we have had our prepared speech. We've had our practice speaking. We talked about the varying timer and all that. But we want to get that immediate feedback. We want to be able to improve. Not only do we want to practice, we want to hear what other people say. So not only can you view yourself in our recorded webcasting, which gets sent off to YouTube, and I post to Facebook every meeting day, but you can also hear back from the members from what they think. Here to help us get through the general evaluation portion of the meeting is our area director, Beth Summerville.
Our first speech today was given by Jonathan Oman, Azure Active Directory, and he will be evaluated by Leanne Vilela.
Thank you, Beth, local directory person, sorry. So Jonathan, this was a super informative speech, especially for someone non-person, so I appreciated that. I think your use of slides was very helpful, and I liked your way of sort of setting up the stage with your questions or your copy points on your slides. And you used humor both up front and at the end, like that whole laughing, which I thought was great. And I think in terms of just body language and use of body, which was your speech category, you were great at using facial gestures when something was negative. You couldn't have your sad face, and then, definitely variety within your facial gestures as well as your hands, and you kind of walked around and had really good eye contact with the room. You seemed to really connect with each person at an individual level, which was great. I did find, in terms of the slides, a little bit distracting. You kind of clicked quickly back and forth. And again, as someone sort of non-techie, I was like, what's going on? I'm still looking at that, So I would say maybe a little bit smoother flow on the slide. Great use of word of the day. I didn't hear a lot of ums and ahs. I think it was a very calming sort of voice presence, which I think is great. The other piece of feedback, I think you went over on the time a little bit, and I would say maybe just practice a little bit more. I think getting in the time frame and sort of that smoother transition on the slides. But overall, I think you accomplished the body movement intention of the speech, so great job.
Our second speech was given by Mohammed Faridi, and he will be evaluated by Cleo Levinson.
It's a weird one. Mohammed, I thought your speech was excellent. You explained a technical topic to some technical and also some non-technical people. The purpose of the speech was how to say it. So your intention should have been to convey an action, keep it simple and short, avoid jargon, include rhetorical devices, and discard unnecessary words. Overall, I think you did a fine job of that. One thing I would just suggest right off the bat, to make it simple for how to say it, include your definition of an application in this sense, or a framework in this sense, because you will be explaining this in hopefully a simple manner. But overall, each sentence I thought was to the point and accurate in what you were intending to say. I thought you used some excellent descriptions of how a framework works in the bigger picture. For example, you used the hexagon architecture. Now that may be a common term, but for me, it gave an idea of how it fits into the bigger picture, and you described that well. You used a few crutch words towards the end. I think you wanted to wrap up, so you threw in a whatever there. Just be aware of that. The structure of your speech, I would have liked. I liked that you started with a purpose. I thought the conclusion with the definition of microservices could have been in the beginning, because it would have given us an idea of the overall picture. But the flow of the speech was strong. You started speaking about microservices, then you went into the history, the monolithic app, the differences, and how you got to microservices. And I like the overall progression of technology. The conclusion I thought was one of the strongest parts of the speech, where you actually describe the pros of microservices, kind of the purpose of the speech, and why you use it today. So thank you.
Thank you, Clea. Now, I neglected to have us do the best speaker vote. So for our guests in this club, the club votes on who did the best speech, and it's you are asked to close your eyes or put your head down. And then would those who feel that the best speaker was Jonathan Oman, please raise your hand. And those who feel that Mohammed Faridi's speech was the best, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. And now we will do the same thing for the best evaluator. So once again, close your eyes, put your head down. And those who feel that Leanne's evaluation was the best, please raise your hand. And those who felt that Clea's evaluation was the best? Okay, thank you very much. Right, and the next topic on our agenda is for the grammarian's report.
All right. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I'm just finishing up my report, so sorry for the delay standing. Okay, word of the day we'll start with. During table topics, Clea hit it, Vince got it, Leanne got it, and that was all the ones I heard during the table topics. During the speeches, John, I heard you say it. Mohammed, I didn't hear you say it, but I'm not totally sure if you did. Okay. For ahs and ums, I'm sure I had several so's and several ums, so I'm just going to say 6 of each. Why not? I couldn't find myself. Clea, during table topics, you had 1 so, 1 ah. Alex, you had 1 so, 1 ah, and a few incorrect uses of, I didn't get the word, but there was a couple times you repeated the sentence, and I'm not being helpful because I don't remember what it was. But I thought I could remember it. I couldn't.
So you don't understand anything.
No, I just don't remember the one sentence. Sorry, I didn't type it. So two so's and 2 ahs. Everything else was just perfect. Vince, you got the word of the day. I didn't catch any ahs or so's. Very polished. Very good. Leanne, during table topics, you used the word of the day, and you had 1 ah and 2 so's. Matt, I counted 9 ahs, which as a new member is, you're still probably 40 or 50 below Nick, and Nick's been here for quite a while. Beth, during your table topics, I counted 1 so, very good otherwise. I was waiting to get you when you would pause, but you just take the breath, and no ahs or ums except for the 1 so that was great. Speakers, John, you hit the word of the day. I already said that. I counted 4 ahs. And lots of so's, but they weren't really so's. They were kind of like not complete so's. So if you're gonna do so's, just complete it so I can make sure to count it correctly. Muhammad, I got 3 ums and 2 so's, no word of the day. And during the evaluations, Leanna counted 8 ahs, and Clea, I counted 5 ahs. I didn't catch any so's from you guys. So that's good, no so's. And word picture of the day. Oh no. All right, first I'll ask if there's any nominations. I was doing several things and didn't hear any metaphor or simile.
I would like to nominate Brett for his unwrapping of the chocolate bunny and then holding it.
I agree.
It should be upside down.
That was fantastic.
Versus the ears.
I second that.
Thank you very much. Could our timer give the report, please?
Absolutely. For table topics, we all stayed, these were the shortest table topics yet, so we were all within time. The longest speech was Brett at 1:44, and the shortest was Tara, but that was completely, impromptu, so well done, you stepped up to the plate and you were great. That's awesome. The speeches both went much longer than you guys intended, but that's okay. Jonathan, you were at 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and Mohammed, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. For the evaluations, Leanne, you were at 1 minute and 40 seconds, and I was at 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
Thank you.
Now, could we have the table topics master give the wise old owl award, please?
It's the owl. The wise one.
Thank you. Again, does anybody have any nominations? Anybody? Yes.
I would like to nominate Vince. I thought his description of how government should not involve religion was very poignant.
I would agree. Vince?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
No,
And so it's my duty to announce the best speaker and the best evaluator awards based on your votes. The challenge is I don't know which one is which.
The martini cup is the speaker, and the keychain is the evaluator because evaluations are key.
Nice.
Great. So
Like
the
natural
best speaker today, evaluator first, okay, all right. The best evaluator award today goes to Leanne. The best speaker award today goes to John. As the general evaluator, it is my option and privilege to give a general evaluation of the meeting. And I want to first say that you did an excellent job of managing to continue the meeting even though you had the noise. For many people, once there's that interruption, everybody gets thrown off and the meeting falls apart. And I want to congratulate the speakers and the evaluators. You did a great job of just continuing on, raising your voice volume, and making do. And that's kind of how life is. We have to make do even though it's loud. I also, Vince, liked your handoff between the president and Toastmasters. I thought that was fun, and it's important to have a fun meeting. It was a great meeting. I also want to compliment you on having 3 guests, and then during the break, the members took the opportunity to talk with the guests. And I hope that all 3 of you had a fabulous time and that you will return. With that, I'll turn the meeting back over to your Toastmaster.
Great job, Madam Security Director and your evaluator. Thank you for stepping up on short notice. All right, so Toastmasters closing comments. We have a couple more awards to present. We have the Spark Plug Award and we have the Fuzzy Mouse, and I'll issue that one. But for the Spark Plug Award, I'm going to invite Matt back up here for adding a little bit of juice to the meeting by stepping up and And for the Fuzzy Mouse Award, that is the best explanation of a technical topic in a more non-technical way. So we had 2 technical speeches today. So that means we have 2 opportunities. So in my opinion, as a technical person, I liked what I saw from John's presentation, where I'm like, I thought it was great to go through the wizarding, but I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think non-technical people are gonna connect with this. I think Leanne resonated with that. So I'm gonna give this over to Muhammad, who, another thing about John's was it was like, here's my current path, and it was a great speech, but Muhammad gave a complete picture of exactly what to do, and for that I want to give this. All right, closing comments. I'd like to echo everything that Beth said, as well as adding that, you know, it's great to have three guests here. Again, if you have any questions about membership or ToastMasters or TechMasters in general, please let us know. And something else I want to add? Nothing really. We kind of shifted around on our time. We were behind and we were ahead and behind, but we wound back and we're right on time. So great to see. And now I get the awkward way to transition from me as the Toastmaster to me as the president. So I'll spin around here. And now I will close the meeting as the president. So, are there any new business before we head on out? John?
One thing that I guess I noticed recently is there, or maybe first a question, is there any kind of a mailing list to send out to all of the members? Because currently my method is copy and paste from a previous email and hope I got everyone.
You could reply to schedule email, for example, everybody.
We'd rather just go like TechMasters at my mail client.
If we do not have something like that, I would, I guess, move to maybe have one set up so that it is much easier for us to do that.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, or do we have any discussion? No, I'm going to say this because it's funny. All those in favor of making John figure this all out, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, it's settled. John's going to figure that out and he'll tell us all about it next week. Any other new business?
Careful you ask for.
John, we did it every year, so this year we did not do it. So.
Yep, as much as I enjoy doing everything for the club, it's nice when other people step up, so please do that. I'm interested in that sort of thing, but yeah.
I'll check off my webmaster volunteering.
Phenomenal, great.
There's a leadership thing.
Whatever kind of mail client it is, even if it has to be like not TechMasters website, doesn't matter. Anything that involves doing that kind of thing easy, or talk to Mike to see if he's got something that works in the website. All right, any other new business? They won't necessarily all go down like that. I won't necessarily make you do something. Well, another new business again. Any announcements? Right.
Mr. President, I didn't mention this in the beginning of the meeting because I was too busy talking about the dues, but dues are due. So I got some checks today. If you haven't gotten me one, mail or what's the date next week? Is Tuesday too late?
29.
29. So for sure by next Tuesday, I'll probably go to the bank right after the meeting. So dues are due. Oh yeah, Vince, how much are dues?
$45. It's the treasurer though, I forgot.
Yeah.
All right, great. And please make the check out to TechMasters. Yes, Beth?
Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I just want to remind you that the district speech contest is April 5th. And both Mike and Vince were the second place at the area speech contest, and I think they have their fingers crossed that the first place winners will attend. But if you'd like to come out and see some really fabulous speeches, I would encourage you to do that. And I think Vince has the specific details about the location. And if not, I can send them to him so that you can join Division J in our speech contest.
Yep, I do have the details. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I do have
April
them
5th.
electronically.
I just don't remember the
So I'll include it. I'll put it in my notes for next week. But yeah, so it was perfect because I got second place. So did Mike. So not only did I get a Caribou gift card, just like the winner, I believe, but I don't have to go on to the next level. It's great. So very clean.
You can thank John for that gift card.
Huh? Yeah, thanks, John. Well, I know I got one at the area.
Oh, well.
Sorry.
That was his second place.
Wow. Confident?
Sorry.
You can still thank me.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks for phoning it in as well. And I'd like to thank Mike for never ever saying anything whenever he gives any answer to anything. And at the area, Trontes, it was really interesting. Now, we all see him not saying anything for a minute or two every week at table topics, but he didn't say anything for 7 minutes. It was really interesting. I was surprised. He gave a great speech about nothing that didn't ever go anywhere. And that's probably why he got second place as opposed to first. The first place guy went somewhere, gave a really nice, well-constructed speech, even though I feel that Mike is a better speaker than Jack.
Yeah.
But, if he ever wanted to make a point or have any kind of structure to the speech, I bet he would have won pretty easily. He's not here, so he knows. All right, do we have a closing, so display schedule, I want to make sure I jump on that. Schedule for next week, our Toastmaster is Tony, he's not here, but I'll make sure that he knows to go ahead and get a theme out as quickly as possible. And please do pattern things after the theme. Thank you for all those who did this week as well. And do we have any closing thought from our time?
Do we ever? The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open.
So then I will adjourn the meeting.
I feel like they look at that.